All right, hello. Welcome to not Yesterlore and not a normal project stream today. Today, we are doing a conlang showcase, but it is also a little bit of a project stream because it is a conlang that is still very much in progress, like early progress, I want to say. I started making this conlang last late summer, early fall, and I had a big spurt of working on it, and then I stopped working on it for some time, like a long time, and then I started working on it again pretty recently. I'm going to be talking today about the language dabradam, or dabrian, as I sometimes call it, and I'm going to explain the name eventually. And I'm mostly just going to talk about like how this language works, what it's like, how it came about, and what I'm doing with it, I guess. That's the idea. I'm going to configure my video a little bit because there's some weird stuff going on with my lighting here. Mostly it's just very dark, and I tend to be dark lighting. That's sort of the vibe of Yesterlore typically, but I'm gonna adjust it a little bit, just a little bit. That should be a tiny bit better, maybe. Okay, I also have a new mic. I don't know if it's making any difference compared to normally. My sound is not always very great because it's just my laptop speaker that is capturing my voice typically, and now it's an external mic. But I did some tests and it didn't sound super different with the new mic, so let me know if it sounds any better or not. So far I can't tell a significant difference, but maybe that's because either way I'm hearing it out of my computer speakers. So yeah, just let me know about that. Now, Dabrian, what is it? And what is going on with this chart? What is this chart even? So this is the phonology of the language here, or it's basically just the phoneme inventory and some little notes about what the phonology is like. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to zoom back out because most of these pages are better viewed zoomed out, but I'm going to zoom in here and explain what's going on. So this is a very minimal way to present the sound inventory in this language, but here it is. It's an IPA, and then in the little angle brackets is what letters I use to represent those sounds, because I don't always feel like, I'm not always going to write this in IPA. I'm writing it with the Roman alphabet typically. I may or may not make a conscript for this language. I'm leaning towards probably not, just because of time. I don't foresee myself using it enough to warrant making a conscript for it at this point. So the stops are pa, va, pa, ba, ka, and a. I'm going from left to right here. I've got labial stops, a velar stop, and a glottal stop. And only the labial stops make a voicing distinction. They didn't for a while, actually, in the history of this language, and then B kind of reappears as the result of a different sound. So I'll explain the lack of dental or alveolar stops is pretty interesting, especially because this is an Indo-European language. But I'll explain that when we get to it. The fricatives are va, tha, sa, and ha. Va I spell with a V, and tha I spell with a D. So you'll see a D there, but that's not actually a D. That's not like a dental stop or an alveolar stop like it is in English. Duh. It's the. It's just because I don't have D in the language, I can repurpose that D for the ev sound. So anytime you see a D written in this language, it's a the, and a V is more like a v, like you use both of your lips to make the V sound. Va. The nasals are ma, na, nothing too weird there. There is an allophone of na before K, which is nga, kind of like the NG in English, but that's just N before K. That's just how N gets pronounced before K. It's not its own sound in this language. And then we have the only liquid in this language is just ra. And then we have 3 vowels. We have I, U, and A. Sometimes A sounds a little bit more like a schwa if it's not stressed, but that's just sort of a change I allow my speech to make because it's easy for me to make unstressed A's into I and U sometimes show up as E and if I'm like not speaking carefully, but that's just me being lazy. It doesn't change the meaning though, so they're like acceptable pronunciations, I guess. Then what you see there underneath that is syll, S-Y-L-L. That's just short for syllable. This is sort of the maximum syllable you can have is a consonant followed by, if it's a plosive at least, if it's a stop or a fricative, you could then have a liquid, so an R, or you could have a nasal M or N. Then you could have a vowel. You can sometimes have a diphthong if the second one is an I or a U. I didn't specify that there because I was being lazy and I knew what I meant by this because this was mostly meant for me when I first made this chart. But I should probably edit that. And then you can have a coda consonant as well. So consonant at the end of the syllable. This could be either I or U or actually what I'll do is for V, I guess I'll define V as any vowel. I'll make this in a note. V equals vowel or AI or AU. And those are diphthongs, and they are bimoraic, so they do count as 2 separate vowels. That's why I put V there, because they do count as 2 separate vowels technically for the syllable weight. But you can't, for example, have an I and then a U. You can't have I, U. That's 2 different syllables. If you have an I and then a U, it's miu. For example, in miyuhi, which is miyuhi is scales, and it's also the constellation Libra. And that's actually an ancient Egyptian loan. I'll explain that when we get to it. And then here for stress, I just kind of say what the stress is. Stress goes on the final heaviest syllable. Heavy syllable means either it has 2 moras in that it has two vowels, so it's I or ow, or if it has a consonant at the end of the syllable, then it's heavy. If there's no heavy syllables, then it goes on the antepenult, the second to last syllable, or sorry, third to last syllable. It goes on the third to last syllable. If there's only 2 syllables, it goes on to the second to last, if neither of them are heavy. If there's an exception to this, I mark it with an accent, and there are some exceptions that come up for historical reasons. So that is the sound system. And to give an example of how this plays out, I'm going to go to the lexicon real quick, and I'm going to zoom out now, back to what makes more sense to look at. Let's go out even more. 100%, I think you'll see everything. Yeah, maybe 110. Yeah, that's good. So we can look at this word here. This is varkuva, varkuva. And I know where to put the stress because I have 3 syllables here, and I'm going to put dots between the syllables. So I'm going to start at the end. There's a syllable, va. Ku is a syllable because there's an onset, and then there's a vowel. Onset just means the beginning of the syllable. A consonant at the beginning of the syllable. And then here I have 3 letters here, and this syllable is actually heavy. It's heavy and it's not light because it has a coda here. It has an R at the end of the syllable. So if there was some kind of conflict, I would look at the fact that this has a heavy syllable and put the stress there anyway, but it goes there regardless. Oh no, Google Sheets thought that was a link. The stress goes there regardless because it's the third to last syllable. Neither of these syllables are heavy. They're both short syllables, so they don't get stress. But this is the antepenult, is the third to last syllable, so it's the one that gets stress. So it's like varkuva, varkuva. So the stress goes there, varkuva. But let's look at this word here. This is varan, and the stress goes on ran because it's heavy. If I put my syllable break with a period there, va is light, but then ran is heavy because there's an N at the end. So the stress goes there, so it's like varan. But because I'm following the rules, of the stress, I don't need to mark it. Let me find a deviation from stress. I just had to go up 1. Vara, it's a deity, a barley god. And that has the stress at the end, even though it should go here, the second, or like the third to last syllable. The penultimate syllable. It should go here. It should be vara, which is true of the word immediately above it. It's vara. Vara means hill. Vara. And then vara is the barley god. And the reason that there's an accent there and that the stress is not following the rules is because after this shift that causes the stress to happen, there's still an S at the end, and the S doesn't go away until after that rule. I will explain that when we get to it. All right. So that is sort of how the syllabification stuff works. All right. So now I'm going to talk about how this language comes about. So this is what we call an Indo-European language. Indo-European means that it is within the same umbrella group as all the other Indo-European languages, and also it comes from Proto-Indo-European. Now, I've made a lot of languages that come from Proto-Indo-European. Sorry, my phone is telling me that there's something weird going on with my connection. And I don't know if that's affecting the stream as well. I hope not. But my phone is telling me I'm live, so that seems good. If you're in the chat, please sound off so I can tell if it's being connected or not, or being disconnected. I mean, I guess if I'm disconnected, I wouldn't see anything, so I wouldn't know either way. Huh. Okay. Very strange. Anyways, it is an Indo-European language. And I've made a lot of Indo-European languages from Proto-Indo-European. People tend to call them Pi-langs because it's fun. But this language is not like a very typical example of a Pi-lang, even one that I've made. I'm going to look at actually a different conlang real quick to show you how I tend to do Proto-Indo-European languages and how a lot of people tend to do languages from Proto-Indo-European. So what you have at the top, this formatting I actually took from a friend of mine who may or may not be watching this stream right now. I really like how she formats her Pi-lang charts and just her sound change charts in general. It's fun. I used to do all my conlanging in Google Docs, and I would make a table in Google Docs manually and put the sound changes there. So glad I stopped doing that. Okay, so what we have is the leftmost column is the sound changes that happen. And so what you see is on one side, that's the sound that it was, and you see an arrow, and then you see the sound that it becomes. And then sometimes you see a slash, and then you see, if you see a slash, you're also going to see an underscore. And the underscore represents the sound that's changing. So wherever the sound is, a hashtag is a word boundary, so either the beginning or the end if it comes before or after of a word. And then sometimes you'll see a C, like that would be like before a consonant, or before the end of the word, or between a consonant and a vowel, or between vowels. That's sort of linguistic notation, like shorthand, that linguists like to use, historical linguists especially, when we're showing how sounds change over time. Now, often, if it's like a whole group of sounds and not one specific sound, you'll see a capital letter, like a K. That just means all of the velar stops. So K, G, and the aspirated ones as well are changing there. That's what that means. When you see a T or a D, often that has to do with the voicing. So for example, this here says that aspirated stops become voiceless stops here. That's what that means. So these are the kind of things you'll see. This is me being super lazy and say that the stress switch shifts to work like it does in Latin, because I didn't feel like actually writing the rule and I knew what I meant, and this was just meant for me. But this is how you can see the sounds change, and then you up here you see the Proto-Indo-European reconstruction for what the word is, and then underneath I like to put what it's going to mean in my language, not necessarily what it means in Proto-Indo-European, but what it's going to mean in my language, and then I put it through the changes. So all the changes that apply to this word that are going to happen to it, I write them down gradually as they go, so you can kind of track the change, and then it makes it also easy to see if you've made a mistake. You can go back and check. And then at the bottom, I sort of spell it out in how I want the language to spell the word here. Ortho just means orthography, the spelling of the word. So it's like once all the sounds come out, here's what the word looks like. And I'm representing the sh sound here. This is the sh in IPA. This little long S looking boy, that's a sh sound. I am spelling that with an X here, a la Portuguese. Portuguese does this. And I like it. So this word is chi, and it means before. This is actually the Proto-Indo-European root for yesterday, but I changed it to mean before. It's a kind of weird semantic shift, but this is a conlang, and I can do what I want. That's the idea. So here's a more typical example of a pi lang. This lang, I'm using what's called monovocal PIE. And monovocal PIE is a weird reconstruction where you're not using typical Proto-Indo-European. You're using Proto-Indo-European in which there's one vowel phoneme, which isn't, that's like not the predominant theory right now. It was at one time a slightly more popular theory. It was never popular, but a lot of Indo-European linguists to some extent accept or theorize that at some pre-Indo-European stage, Indo-European vowels A and O that you typically see reconstructed were allophones of one A phoneme, probably. And monovocal PIE just kind of puts that into action, basically. It's like, okay, let's roll with that. And there are other reasons for it. I actually, in my undergraduate thesis, I did a whole thing on monovocal PIE, or at least it turned into that. I was talking about really old nouns and how they work in Indo-European, but it kind of led me down that path of actually monovocal PIE kind of makes some sense, at least to explain vowel, noun vowel behavior in some of the older Proto-Indo-European nouns. And I have a series of pages on that on my website, actually. I might end up linking that in the YouTube description of this, that sort of project that I did. But this language uses monovocal PIE as its root, so that's already kind of weird. And it also does some weird things with where the stress goes and stuff. And also, I am not reflecting the centum-satum split, so the sort of palatovelars and not palatovelars, which are actually probably more like velars and uvulars in the actual Proto-Indo-European. Most people think that the velars are actually uvular and the palatovelars are just normal velars. So it's just sort of shifted further back in the mouth. This monovocal PIE also doesn't reflect that difference. It's like just consider them merged already. And so that's sort of the starting point for these words, and I'm doing some wacky semantic shifts with them. So that's most of the origin of words. This language, when I first made it, before I give it a name, I called it Peach Cobbler. And the reason for that is because I like to, this is also stolen from my friend, I like to name my Proto-Indo-European language projects puns on the word pie. And at a certain point, you run out of different pies to talk about, so you start talking about other sort of baked goods. So I called this one Peach Cobbler, and I decided that I actually wanted peaches to be significant in this culture of whoever speaks this language. And I had an idea of what the con culture would be like at one point. I've completely lost it now. Like, I don't remember it, and I didn't write it down. This is why we should write things down, people. Conlangers, if you have a cool idea, write it down, because you're going to forget later. So I forgot most of the culture stuff, but I do have a couple old Chinese loans in this language, and the word dabra, which is peach, is one of them, dabra, and dabradam just means peach language, language of peaches. And I had a reason for why that made sense in the culture, but I do not remember it. I know that peaches would be like very significant, like peach orchards would be a whole thing. It had something to do with that at one point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show a little bit of how the declension and the verb conjugation works. I don't have a syntax page yet, but I do have examples that could serve as syntax stuff. So I'm going to start, though, with noun declension. There are 4 cases in this language, 4 noun cases. They're the same ones that exist in most Germanic languages and in Greek. Nominative, accusative, genitive, dative. And there are different noun classes. These are not perfectly categorized. These are just common noun endings and how nouns with those endings tend to decline for the different cases. Bolded. And then I have adjectives and their declension down here. And then I have my pronouns as well here. This one is kind of a weird one that I made up. It is a proper determiner. So if you have a proper noun that's loaned in and can't decline because it doesn't fit like a noun declension pattern, or if you want to like emphasize the proper nounness of something, like you want to say it's the blank, because there are no definite articles in this language at all. You can't say like the versus a. That's just sort of implied. But if you want to emphasize that something is the proper example of something, instead of declining it, you decline this determiner and then just put the word after it. So that's how this one works. But the rest are pronouns. And I guess I could explain what these are. So it's first person singular, first person plural. So like I, we, second person singular, second person plural. So these are you, singular, you, plural. And we have third person / distal. So the third person pronoun is also the distal determiner, demonstrative. That's the word I was looking for. So, for example, this could be like it, he, they, she, but it could also be that or those. You'll notice outside of the first and second person pronouns, there's no number distinction. There's no singular versus plural in the language. And then I have the proximal, so that's this. And then I have an interrogative indefinite, so this could mean what, or it could be some, depending on the context. Like what or whatever, or who or whoever. And that kind of depends on the context as well. So that's the declension. The verb conjugation still reflects an active-stative sort of split, at least in verbs. The language is not active-stative, but and I've talked about active-stative in a previous conlang stream. If you want to go search my conlang, I think it's in my Conlang with Me playlist on YouTube. I talk about what active-stative means, I think. If I remember correctly, I think my Conlang with Me, the Twitch lang, the one I was making for talking about the humanities, that one was active-stative, if I remember correctly. But this is not an active-stative language. You can see it's just simple nominative, accusative, subject, and object. But the verbs still reflect the old active-stative distinction in that, like, you'll have verbs that conjugate as if they're active or conjugate as if they're stative. So they have different sets of endings, and the stative ones tend to be way more irregular. But there are different stems of verbs you can see here. So you can see the sort of lemma form, the dictionary citation form. I call this the general non-finite. It's not, it is basically the infinitive, but it gets used as any kind of verbal noun or adjective. If you decline it as an adjective, it just ends up having different endings as an adjective than it would as a noun. But you just zero derive it to make a participle, for example. But it would be an active participle. For a passive participle, you'd need to use a stative equivalent, and if there's no stative equivalent, you just need there to be an adjective that means, for example, burnt. There's no burnt. This could be the noun burning, or it could be the adjective burning, but it can't be the adjective burnt. You would either have to make an adjective that means burnt, which I don't think I have one, or you can have this be like an embedded infinitive and then take the perfective and use a varkuva as your adjective. But I don't think you'd want to do that. It's very verbose. So I have some auxiliaries down here. So these are just sort of like helping verbs that these conjugate when you use it with one of these infinitives. And they express things like progressive aspect, like it is happening or was happening. And then this is like this, it's a completed action, a perfective. And then we have an imperative. If you want to give a command, you actually have to use this verb. You have to conjugate this. And it's usually going to be karka in the second person. But sometimes it might be karpa if you're using one of the impersonal verbs that I'm going to talk about. Then we have a subjunctive for like wishes or hypotheticals. And then we have a future auxiliary. And these, as you can see, tend to be stative in their conjugation. I also have an emphatic copula. This language has null copula, so you don't, if you want to say blank is blank, you just say blank and then blank in the same case, and you don't need a verb for that. So you could say like house, house big, and that's fine. That means the house is big. But there is an emphatic copula, vuki, to like sort of declare, especially like identity, like I am, dabrian, for example. You could say I am dabrian, which, what's the word for dabrian? Is it dabraviavum? Dabravia. I'm forgetting my word for dabrian. Dabrian person is, I think, dabravia. Dabravia. Let me see if I can find it. All right, yeah. So the stress is the bravia, Dabrian person. So you can say like the bravia, vum. I am Dabrian. So like identities and things like that. Like if I wanted to say I am a Capricorn, I would say apra arnuvum is what that would be. So that is verb conjugation and noun declension. There's some weird stuff that I did though with this language that I'm very happy with actually. And I have some examples here. These are some example sentences that I've separated out just to make it kind of clear what's going on here. First though, I think I'll give a better example sentence because this is like a cheeky thing I did. And you could see this word comes up a lot because this is actually the verb here. But the general word order is SOV, which is pretty typical old Indo-European word order. The subject comes first, then the object, then the verb. You might have, so adverbial, sort of prepositional type arguments tend to come before. It's like ASOV. And then sometimes you'll have adverbs come right before the verb. If you have an auxiliary, that comes after, so you'd have like a non-finite, general non-finite, and then you'd have an auxiliary. So like if you're going to do something in the future, you'd have like the verb you're going to do in the future, like eat, and that's going to usually end with ki if it's an active, or va or ba if it's stative. So it's that, and then your future auxiliary, which in the first or third person would be kana, but the verb is kamba, to be gonna do in the future is what that is. So yeah, but basically the verb comes at the end. If you have descriptor words, they can either come before or after the noun depending on what kind of descriptor it is. If it's a determiner like this or that, or if it's a possessive like my or his or something like that, then it comes before the noun. So you'd say like my book. It would come in that order like in English. But if you wanted to put an adjective on that, like my red book, you'd put red after. Or my book. From Dabria. That'd be Dabria in the genitive. And Dabria is Dabrakana. I think that's actually equivalent not to Dabria, but like Dabristan. I think the idea was this would be spoken close to the Caspian Sea somewhere. But yeah, Dabrakana. I think kana actually might be a Proto-Indo-Iranian loan from where the same root for stan is, but I don't remember. I could check, but I don't feel like doing that right now because I'm busy explaining this. So that's the general word order. So I'm going to grab a normal verb that works normally. Let's just do like make. I'm going to say I make bread. That'll be easy. So to make, I think it looks like it's dauki. Or sorry, not dauki, thauki. I can speak this language. Thauki. Thauki is to make. And I can say, why does that have stuff? I need to make this blank. Why does this have stuff here? All right. So I, stop it. All right, so I is just a, that's the first person pronoun. And then bread is vaha, vaha. And that's the direct object, so that's actually going to need to be in the accusative case. So that's going to be vahan, vahan. And then make is thauki, and the first person singular is thaumi, thaumi. So a vahan thaumi. And because the me is here, the a is actually kind of optional. So you could just say vahan thaumi, and it's clear that you're saying I make bread. If you wanted to say I made bread, you're going to need to use the perfective. I mean, this could mean I made bread actually by itself. But if you want to like make it clear that it happened in the past, you're going to want to use the perfective auxiliary varkuva. So you're going to want thauki to stay thauki and not conjugate. And then you're actually going to conjugate varkuva. Varkuva is going to be your word for, like, you did it, basically. It's a complete action. So it's going to be thauki, and then it's varka. Now, you might have noticed that varka is the same for all three singular persons, first person, second person, and third person. Like, I did something in the past, and it's done. Or I am doing it, or I just did it now, and it's done. So I complete an action, you complete an action, someone else completes an action, are all the same. This is bolded differently because the ka here is actually representing the ka ending for most stative verbs. And the ka from the ending is actually kicking out the ka that's in the root here because of a consonant shift that happened. But these k's are from the root and the ending is a. So they're all the same. So it might be a little bit more necessary in this example to keep the a if you're saying I. Like, if you don't have the a there, it could be you completed making bread, or someone else completed making bread. Or I completed making bread. But context would help a lot there in any case. So that's a simple sentence. I made bread, or I make bread. All right. Now, one of the things that I am very happy with in this language is, sorry, I forgot to turn off my sound. Sorry, I got a text and I thought I muted my phone, but I did not. Whoops. Okay. One of the things I'm very happy with this language is the way that sense verbs work. So when I talk about senses, I'm going to talk about the 5 typical senses people talk about, which are seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling physically, and tasting. And these are each represented here in each of these sentences. But they work differently in this language because they're kind of, there's kind of only one verb. There's technically a few. I've made 2, and I plan on making a couple more for them. But they have less to do with which sense it is and more to do with like how you're experiencing the sense. The typical one is this verb here, uranauki. Uranauki actually comes from the root that means to hear. In most of the languages that inherit it from Proto-Indo-European. But uranauki means just to sense in general in this language. And what you do to say what the sense is you actually put the organ that's typically used to feel that sense in the dative case, the case that typically means like to or for or on in this language. Dative is used for locatives as well, on that part of the body. And you still have the thing that you're sensing in the accusative. It's still the direct object. You just don't really have a subject typically. If you want to emphasize that the sense is being done on purpose, like you're gonna sort of push yourself to sense it, like try to notice it, go out of your way to notice it, then you can use the subject case for the person who's doing it, and you can drop the possessor here that I'm going to explain in just a second. So what these are all pronouns, but these are actually genitive pronouns. They're like determiners, basically. This is my, this is our, this is the third person's. So it could be your, it could be her, his, their, its, that one's. It just kind of depends on the context. And then we have you plural, your, guys's, and then we have your singular, thy, if we want to get archaic. So I'm actually going to gloss each of these sentences. I'm going to like say what each word means, and then I'll break down what it actually translates to. And there's spaces here because these are actually adjectives describing the prior word. I'm trying to keep everything lined up here. So we have the object in this column for all of them. What we have here, vaikuri, means, so it's the noun is vaikur, or sorry, why am I pronouncing that with a V? Vaikur. Vaikur means, and I'm stressing it wrong too, is vaikur. Vaikur is eye. It's your eye, or your eyes. Vaikur. Vaikuri means like in the eye, or on the eye, or to the eye. So it's I, and then it's dative. Man is the first person singular genitive, so it's my, basically. My eye. So to my eye, or in my eye. And then kan here is just this as a direct object, so it's an accusative, this. Then we have the verb urnauki, and it's in the general on finite, so it's sense, general on finite, so it's like to sense. And then ma is the subjunctive. Mava is actually the infinitive of that, the general and finite. It's the subjunctive auxiliary in the first or third person singular because they're the same ending. So it's like a desire or a wish or a hypothetical. So this translates ultimately to something like, I wish to see this. Like, may I see this, or may it be in my eye, basically. I wish, or I hope to see it, is the idea here. And it's not that it, sorry, it's this. I hope to see this is what that would be like a good translation, I think. Now what we have here, this sentence, oh, I should probably say the whole sentence. Man vaikuri kan urnaukima. I hope to see this. Here we have we, and it's in, well, we is va, actually, va, but then the possessive there is umbi, so it's our. Umbi, and then hankuvi is the noun hanku, which means ear, or hearing, ears. So it's ear, dative. So in our ears. Then we have the word, this is the word vakur. Vakur is the word here. Vakur means like a spring or a fountain, or it could also be like a faucet, I guess, or like a sink. But this word here means beautiful. So I'm going to say it's a fountain just because it's beautiful. I guess a sink could be beautiful too. That's the idea. Oh no, we're getting cut off. I'm going to make this bigger. There we go. And then this is in the accusative as well, so it's like fountain accusative, and then it's beautiful. And remember, adjectives come after nouns, so long as they're not sort of possessor ones. So it's like the beautiful fountain. And this is the accusative ending for a UR noun. And the accusative ending for an A adjective is M, typically. So arbam, arbam. So umbi, hankubi, vakrun, arbam, karki, varka. Now karki means to go or travel. And with senses, it has a special second meaning, which is that you're sensing it from far off, like it's traveling to you rather than just being in the sense, like it's not just in your ear, it's traveling to your ear from far away. So this means like to sense from afar is sort of the translation there. And then varka is, I'm forgetting what varka is. Varka is the perfective, that's right, it's varkuva. Varka is, the perfective. And I'm going to say this is third person singular. It could be one or third. That's how I usually mark it, but actually I'm going to specify which one it's intended to be here. It's intended to be third person because you are not the subject. There is no subject in the sentence. It's just a third person thing, like in space, really. So it's like the image of this is sensed in your eye, basically. It's sort of a weird passive thing going on here. Almost. It's not actually passive, but it's that sort of idea because there's no subject. So here, what this translates to is we heard, like we finished hearing it, it's done, the beautiful fountain from afar. We could hear it from far away. That's what that means. Umbi hankuvi vakrun arvam karki varka. All right, this one is fun as well. Anasma is the third person, so it could be his or her or their or its. I'm going to say their, singular they, or it could be plural they. It's actually ambiguous, just like it is in English. Then we have the word unsah, and unsah is nose, and its dative form is just unsabi and unsabi, so it's like nose dative. And then we have vahan. Vahan, we had that before, that was bread in the accusative. And then we have urmam. Urma is actually hot. I think it isn't related to the word warm. I could double check that, actually. I want to double check that. I think it's a coincidence that it sounds a little bit like warm. Urma is warm. Let me actually look up urma. Urma, heat. Yeah, it's completely unrelated to the word warm. It's like, it's actually heat. It's actually the weight. The root is like the weight of summer is where it comes from. But it just means heat in general in this language. So yeah, it's not related to warm at all, just a coincidence. And it's hot, and that's also accusative. You can tell by the M at the end. Urmam, vahan, urmam, urnao. And this is sense in the third person singular because it's not them who are smelling it. It's the sense of the warm bread is in their nose, and there's no subject. All right. Then we have the next one. This is urak. Oh, I should say the whole sentence. Anasma unsabi vahan urmam urnao. All right. Then we've got this one. And this is a command because we have karpova here. Karpova is to have this. This is imperative. And it's in the third person again because there's not actually a subject here. Uranauki is to sense and it's the general and finite. And then we've got urak is your and it's plural. So like yalzes. Yalzes. And then asari is asar, I'm pretty sure. Asar is hand. Asar is hand. So it's hand dative. But when you put hand in the dative, it actually just means the sense of touch in general. So like your feeling, your hand, your touch. I thought about using skin for this, but I decided not to. I liked the idea of hand being metaphorical for just touching in general. Because even if you don't have a hand, you still have hand, like the sense of touch. I liked that idea. Unnan, this is unna, and unna means water. This is water, accusative. And then naira means cold. This is nairam, cold as a direct object. Agreement with the noun. So, unnan nairam urnau ki karpa. Urak asari unnan nairam urnau ki karpa. So this is a command. Hey, everyone, feel the cold water. Like, feel the cold water. Touch the cold water and feel it. Now, this is actually kind of strange to have an imperative but then, like, no subject. It's sort of like, make it so that you feel the cold water, kind of, is the idea there. Now, if I wanted to make this more, put more agency on these people, like command them, like, put your hand in the water, what I would do instead is I would make this actually the subject. I would say ura, which is you, plural, as the subject. That's the nominative case, the subject case. And then I wouldn't need the urak part. Ura asari unnan nairam urnau ki karpa. So like, cause your hand to sense the cold water. Make it happen. Make the sense happen. That's not what I wanted to do with my example. Now this last one is another simple one like the first one. Kava is the you, your, and this is singular. Kava. Why can't I type today? Your, singular. Okay. Kumbabi. Kumbah is tongue. Kumbah. It's actually cognate with things. This word tongue, believe it or not. I'll explain how in a second because I'm going to go through my sound changes a little bit more. We're going to do some examples actually. So yeah, kumbabi means tongue and it's dative. So like on your tongue. Kailan is the accusative of kaila, and kaila is oil, especially sesame oil, but it can be any oil. So like kailan, sense, third person. So this is you, your tongue feels the oil. So you taste. This just means you taste the oil. And this could be, I was thinking this would be a question. Kava kumbabi kailan urnau. And I decided I wanted rising intonation for questions here because that's a really typical thing in Indo-European languages. So I was like, why not just do that here too? Rising intonation for yes, no questions. And then there's often falling intonation for WH questions. And I think I'm going to do that in this language too. All right, so those are my examples for senses. And I'm very happy with how that comes out. I really like this. I've done this in other languages before too, using the body parts instead of separate words for see, hear, smell, feel. I just have sense, and then it's eye, ear, nose, hand, tongue. Because in theory, you could like make up other senses for other organs. So that's the idea there. That's how that works. Now, I had a couple things I wanted to do. I don't think I'm going to have time for both of them. One of them, though, was to do colors, and I don't think we're going to get to that. I haven't made colors for this language, and I thought that would be fun to do together. I might make the string go a little bit over, if that's worth doing. But the thing I wanted to do first is I wanted to show how I go through the process of using a sound change chart like this. So that if you're deriving from a language, and it doesn't have to be Proto-Indo-European, it could be any language you're deriving from. You can put your source word at the top, like what it is in the proto-language or whatever language you're borrowing from, and putting through diachronic sound change, and then you can go through the sound changes that apply to it. So I will talk through this. So the first word is a word for snake that I wanted to have there be a separate word for snake. I might switch this with what I'm doing over here, which I'll explain shortly, but I'm going to start with this just because it's a fun one to start with. So as you can see, it's H2, accented A, and then this is an aspirated or breathy voice labiovelar. It's like gua, gua. And then we have E here. So it's like hungry. I'm very bad at doing the aspirated breathy voice consonants, which is why I get rid of them in like every Indo-European language I make. I struggle with Urdu and Hindi because they have those sounds, and it's my big challenge with speaking those languages, even though I've been trying to learn them for some time. So this H2, don't worry about it. If you are curious about the sound of Indo-European, there are lots of videos on it on YouTube. If you want me to do a video on Indo-European, I could. I love Proto-Indo-European. It's such a fun language to talk about. But there are a lot of other people already talking about it. And you can find, actually, I just recently saw a pretty new video about like explaining difficult concepts in PIE, including the whole H1, H2, H3 situation. I actually didn't watch it, but so I don't know if it's good or not. It might be. I hope so. But there are other people explaining this stuff. I'm not going to go into it too much because I would just want to explain how it comes out in my language. So the first thing that applies to this word is the H2 just becomes H. H1 goes away, and H2 and H3 become H. So that's the first thing that happens. Then the second thing that happens is the H goes away. This one doesn't apply because there's no H1 in the word. H goes away. That's what H to 0 means. After a consonant or before a final end of the word consonant. Neither of those apply here, so the H gets to stay here. The next thing is that I have a capital K with the little floaty W there, and then a K. So this is a labiovelar, just becomes a plain velar. What that means is the rounding that happens with this, that's what the W represents. It's like you round your lips when you say this G sound. That goes away. So it's just going to become hungry. It's an aspirated G still, but it's a G that no longer has a rounding. Okay. Then the next thing that happens that applies to this word is that aspirated G just goes away entirely. You can see the aspirated B and W merge into this V sound that I spell with a V. The aspirated D becomes my the sound, and G goes away entirely. Hearts80 says, hi, 3 S's. Hello, hi. You're coming in near the end of the stream, but that is perfectly fine because I may or may not go overtime today. I'm just explaining how the sound changes from Proto-Indo-European to my conlang work right now, and I'm giving some examples. I saved these to do. If you can see my bar, I've done a lot of other words. That's where I've done most of my vocabulary here. But I'm going to go back to where I was. There we go. So the next thing that applies, wait, are you a teacher? I am a teacher. I am a teacher in high school. But the first thing I'm doing here is explaining my sound changes. Okay, so the next thing that we're doing is the next sound change that applies here is that the aspirated G just goes away entirely, so the word becomes honey. And I already know nothing else is going to happen to this word. None of the other sound changes apply all the way down. There's nothing else that makes the H do anything weird. I don't have to spell the stress anymore because it's the penultimate here. So the word is just going to be honey, and this is our word for snake now. But the other thing I want to think about is it's an I final word, so I want to make sure I know how it's going to decline. This is going to be how it's going to decline in the language. So as a subject, it's honey. As a direct object, it's hanin. As a genitive, if you're saying like the snake's, I don't know, the snake's skin or something, it's hanai. And as a dative for the snake or to the snake, it's haniri. I'm studying to be a teacher. Well, good luck studying to be a teacher. It's a journey. I hope that works out. Do you know what you want to study? To teach? Do you know what you're going to teach? That would be awesome. Also, hello, Big Nasty Trek. Hello, here right at the end. I might go overtime a little bit. I actually have like a little window. I said I'd be ending the stream earlier than I knew I could, just because I'm trying to give myself more time after than I typically have. Usually these streams go for 2 hours or an hour and a half. I made it 1, but I probably am going to go over. So yeah, I know that this is going to be an I stem, so it's going to decline like this word for chance, varki here. So honey is my word for snake, And what I do then is I take what the PIE root is. I go to the bottom of my dictionary. I'm just going to reorder it when I'm done. I just, A to Z it when I'm done. Literature or art. Oh, that'd be so cool. Oh, Pago, keep listening while I run errands. Okay, cool. Literature or art. That's teaching either of those would be awesome. I actually, among other things, I mostly teach foreign language in high school and middle school, but I also teach some English as well. And I do some electives too. Honey is our noun, and it means snake. And I know the stem. There's nothing weird. I'll usually put morphological information if the type of noun or verb it is isn't obvious and I can't predict. But when I see an I here and there's nothing weird going on, I just know it's an I stem. If it were irregular or something, then I'd actually put its different forms here, like I did with this verb voki here. I put all of its conjugation here. And then I'll put the root is from that Proto-Indo-European root, and then I know where it comes from. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing now with these words. This is the word for boss. It comes from the word for master of the house in Proto-Indo-European, and this comes from the word for master of the town, I think, master of the city or settlement. And I wanted these to mean boss and ruler respectively. So I'm actually going to do these simultaneously. The first thing that affects this word is that I have a consonant shift here where the alveolar stops, T and D, both get retracted and lose voicing distinction to become K. After K and G lose their voicing distinction and go back to being a glottal stop, the sound. This is actually a shift that happens from East Polynesian to Hawaiian. So like earlier East Polynesian has like T and K, but in Hawaiian these respectively become K and the glottal stop, which Hawaiian writes with the okina. So you'll have a word like why can't I think of good examples right now? I can't think of any good examples from Hawaiian right now. There's so many examples and I can't think of any. But yeah, that's the sound change that happens in Hawaiian. I have it happen in this language too. So any T or D is going to become a K, and any K or G is going to become a glottal stop, which I write with X, which is something that Piraha also does. It writes the glottal stop with X. So this is going to become comes. Oh, I'm still on the Hawaiian keyboard. Kamspaki. Kamspaki. I'm going to look at the same thing here. Here, wikpati. Wikpati is going to become wikpaki. Wikpaki. So there's a glottal stop there that I'm writing with an X. And this U here is actually a W phonemically. Just when I write monovocal PIE, I also write the I's and U, the J's and W's as I's and U's because they're the same phoneme. And I just know the syllabification rules in PIE. If you don't know them, I would recommend writing these with W and J, but I just have the syllabification rules in my head. So the next thing that affects this word is that W is going to become the V sound, which I write with V. So it's going to be V. Baki. Rikbaki. Kamspaki doesn't do anything else. Nothing else happens until here, because I have a glottal stop. And what this rule means is a consonant followed by a glottal stop, or preceded by a glottal stop, or by an H. The glottal stop is going to go away, and the H is going to go away, and it's just going to become that consonant doubled. So I have a glottal stop and then a P here. That's just going to become a double P. So vipaki is going to be vipaki with W double P now. Nothing happens to kamspaki yet. Let's see. Two consonants adjacent to each other that are not sonorant, so not an N or an M or an R or an L or anything like that. Those two consonants will become the second consonant. And that's going to apply to kamspaki. That kamspaki is going to, that S and P, neither of those are sonorant. So this is actually just going to become two P's as well. This is going to be kampaki. Kampaki. Double P here. Kampaki. Let's see. What do I need to do next? Oh, I have a question. I don't want to interrupt. Oh, no. Feel fine interrupting. I'm going over time and I knew it. What made you choose to be a teacher, or is it something you've always felt natural to? What made me want to be a teacher? Partially, it's just the way my career path went, I never planned to be a teacher. I don't think I'm always going to be a high school teacher. That's not my plan. I would like to work in a university at some point, or university-like institution, or capacity. I would love to teach linguistics or do linguistic research as my job, with students, because I do like working with students and teaching. But high school teaching is not what I set out to do. It's just what I was able to do. I actually went on a weird path. I was working in middle schools, and then I ended up in a high school. And I wasn't doing anything related to my field either. And then I finally got something that was language-y. I teach foreign language. So it kind of just happened. It wasn't something I planned or set out to do. I didn't grow up wanting to be a teacher. But I do enjoy teaching. I really love seeing people learn, and like overcome barriers to learning, like people getting that like sort of click moment when something makes sense to them, which you get a lot with teaching language, because it goes from, being, gibberish to someone to actually making sense and then being able to express themselves in the language. That's really fun. So that process is really fun. And also just getting ideas from young people is good. Just seeing what people think is also really awesome. Thank you for the question. All right, so the next sound change that applies to either of these, in theory, would be this, but these actually, so this already has the stress it's going to have, because it's both pa and ki are light syllables, so the stress isn't going to go on either of those. It's going to go on the third to last syllable, so the stress won't move there. It will move here, though, because pa and ki are light, but vip has two p's there, so it's heavy syllable. So it's going to be vipaki, and I'll explain that a little bit. I'm going to put dots between the syllables, and you can see why the vip is heavy. Vip has a p at the end, so the stress goes there. So the stress has moved to where it belongs here. And I actually usually don't write the accents here. Once you get to this point, if it's predictable stress, I don't write the accent. I only write the accent if the stress is somewhere that it shouldn't be per the rules because of a sound change. So we've got kampaki and vipaki. What else happens here? I think that double P now is gonna go away. And that's gonna happen here. Geminate consonants, so that's the same consonant twice, which is technically different from a geminate, but that's how I'm writing the geminates, is the same consonant twice. There is a technical difference, but I'm not using that. A geminate is going to become just the single consonant at the beginning of a word, at the end of a word, after a consonant, another consonant, or before another consonant. Here, the geminate is after another consonant. It's after M, so that M is going to make that double P become a single P, because basically what we have is a double heavy syllable with that double P there. We've got kamp, pa, and ki. So we've got two consonants at the end of this syllable, which is actually, if you remember the phonology, which I don't expect you to do, it's against our rules. We can only have one consonant at the end of a syllable. So we have to get rid of one of these consonants, and it's got to be this one. So now it's kampaki. Kampaki. The stress is where it already belongs, so I don't need to write the accent anymore. And nothing else happens. So my word for bas is kampaki, and my word for ruler is vipaki. And they sound pretty similar. And they are I stems, just like honey. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this one over. The root. And I remember what this one was. It was wikpati. Kampaki sounds like it should mean octopus, Lamashka says. It does, but it means boss, manager, and this means ruler. That's so cool. I hope you get to teach at university soon. That would be amazing. Thank you, Heart Sadie. I'm just trying to pronounce all three S's every time I read your name. Okay, so we've got kampaki and vipaki. All right, the next word that I wanted to work on is this word for vehicle, kursa, because I would like a word for car or something. So what happens here, the first thing that applies to this word is the K becoming a glottal stop, which I'm spelling with X here, like I said before. Now what happens here, this R in PIE already is a syllabic R, so this is actually like acting kind of like a vowel here. It's like krsa. That's what's going on. The R is the vowel. But what's going to happen is that this glottal stop is going to, per this rule, make the R become a double R. So now it's rsa, rsa, rsa. And the way I deal with that is word initially or after a consonant, but I apply the word initially rule first and then after the consonant. That first UR is going to become, the first R is going to become a UR, ur here. It's going to be ursa, ursa, ursa. And you can already predict we have a double consonant and then we have another consonant. So you already kind of know what's going to happen if you were paying attention with kampaki. If you forgot, that's fine though. So the stress is going to move here because there's no reason for the stress to stay at the end here. There's no heavy syllable. So the stress is going to move to the U here. So it's just going to be ursa. And then the double R is going to become a single R before that S, because you can only have one consonant at the end of a syllable, and that's where the syllable break is. Why am I putting an accent there? It's ursa. Now, what I'm realizing is I think I already have a word ursa. I might be wrong, but I think I do. Let me check the dictionary. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I could have sworn I do. Oh, I don't. Wait, no. I have ursan. Ursan is one letter off. Ursan means head, mind, or brain. Okay, it's different enough. I mean, the accusative of ursa will be ursan. So an object vehicle and a subject brain would be the same. That's actually kind of nice. I actually kind of like that homophone there. Because I was planning on using the word for drive was going to involve some construction with the brain or the mind. So I actually kind of like that. Ursa is vehicle, and it comes from kursa. Okay. Like Lawa in TP. Oh, hi, Yankawa. Lawa in Tokipona. Yeah, Lawa in Tokipona. That was my idea. I was going to have some kind of construction where it's like you move, you brainly move or something like that. I was going to do something with that, but I hadn't decided how. But now I really want to do that because there's this sort of near homophone that's going to be a homophone in the accusative case of ursa. Okay, the next word I wanted to do together, and there are two here. I wanted a word for dragon, but I wanted the word for dragon to come from the Proto-Indo-European root for worm, as in like the creature worm, not like serpent worm, but like worm. But I wanted that to become the word for dragon, and I didn't want it to be snake. I wanted it to be worm. But there are actually two different reconstructions for what the word for worm is in different Indo-European reconstructions. So what I wanted to do is see how either of these would come out, and if I was going to like either of these better than the other. And this should actually be written with U. I just know that it is a W, and the accent is on the R. The R is a vowel again, like it was here. Okay, so we've got a syllabic R in both of these, and they are stressed. The first thing that happens to this word is that the lip rounding goes away. And then the second thing that happens is that the K becomes a glottal stop. The next thing that happens is that the glottal stop, the glottal stop geminates the R like it did here. And then we've got the URR thing coming in, and you can already tell that second R is going away with this rule. And we've got urmi, which I think I have urma in the dictionary already. Yeah, it means heat. So if dragon is urmi, that's actually kind of cool. That's actually a kind of nice thing. Heat and dragon from different roots, but coming out to a similar sounding word. Now, if it comes straight from urmi, what happens is this becomes, per this rule, it becomes a vermi, and it becomes vormi. And I don't think anything happens after that. So basically the question is, do I want a V in this word or not? Do I want it to be urmi or vurmi? Which one do I like better? I can't actually decide. I'm leaning towards urmi just because it gives me that like heat dragon thing. I do think this culture is going to have fire-breathing dragons. I know there's some old Chinese influence in this language, which might push me towards like watery dragons. But I think I do want fiery dragons in this language because it's a common Indo-European thing is to have fiery dragons. So I'm going to have this be a noun, and it's going to mean dragon. And it's going to come from... Okay. Now, I wanted to do colors today, but we're already 11 minutes past when I wanted to, in theory, end. Should I keep going? Chat, should I keep going? Should I do colors? Yay or nay? I can stay until like at least 1:30 my time, so like almost 20 more minutes. I could stay. Tell me if I should stay or if I should go. Okay, I got one person saying do colors. All right. Do colors. Okay, because if I do colors, I can also show you how I choose Proto-Indo-European roots when I'm not sure which ones to use. That would be a good opportunity. That's what I wanted to do. So I'm going to go to my color page, and first I want to decide what colors I even want in this language. Yes, I'd love colors. Haha, tell me if I should stay or go, just like that song. Oh, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the song. Yes, I'd love colors. Okay, so we've got colors people in the chat. So, for colors, I know peaches are like significant for this language, so I kind of want peach to be like the nexus of one of the color terms. So I'm thinking like I have a color term that's sort of like, it could range from like orange to yellow to tan. Something like, not quite that. I'm thinking more like, let's desaturate that a bit. I'm thinking like there's this range for this first color. I'm going to move this over. There we go. So I want to color pastel-y warm colors. Yeah, that's my idea. Like warm. Well, they don't have to be pastel-y. I think it could go into like a deeper orange too in theory, or a deeper yellow. But the idea is it's not red. It's not all warm colors. It's more like pink, orange, apricot, peach colors, and that would be like one color word that I'd want. And then I'd have one that's more for like red and purple, maybe like reddish, purplish. Oh wait, before that, I think I want like a dark, desaturated apricot with yeah, that's how I pronounce apricot, Lamashka. Yeah. You can cancel me now. Okay. I'm thinking like a brown range, maybe. That kind of bleeds into red and purple. So those are like the dark ones, and then the lighter values are like, you know, like red. Maybe that goes here. Maybe even just like actual purple even would fall under this. I'll think between like this purple. Yeah, this would be like reddish, purpley, browny colors would be here. So that's like color 1. Color 2 would be this. I want to change the formatting here. And then I think I want like, I'm going to merge blue and green, which is cliche, but, you know, I think for this language it makes sense because of how I'm dividing the colors a bit. I'm going to do like a GRU type thing. These cool LGBT flags getting more and more elaborate. Yeah. What do each of these flags represent? Okay. Yeah, so I'm thinking like it's anywhere from like like blue to green. Let me go a little darker there. And then I think I want like alright, I'm actually gonna put space between these. Yeah. And then I think I want just sort of like a neutral tones, like not even neutral tones, just like gray, black, white. And I know I want this, and this is something I decided I wanted like a ways back. I wanted the word for dark, like black and white, to be in the same color word category, and you have to like modify it to say like what shade it is to say whether it's black or white. And I thought that would be fun to try. It's super not naturalistic. Like a natural language probably would not do this. I can't think of any language that does this, but I thought it would be fun. Just doing a little palette. Oops. Yeah. So like gray, and is it light gray or is it dark gray? That's sort of the idea of how I would do black or white. Because then you can have like light and dark versions of each of these colors is the idea. Okay, so in terms of what the color words are, this is going to be tricky, picking colors. I mean, if I wanted to like pick words, like I would think maybe this one could come from words for like yellow or like dusty, gray, tan, that kind of thing. And then these could come from words for red or something like that. These could come from words for blue or green. And these could come from words for gray or maybe black or white. And that's the idea there. So how do I choose these color terms? What I usually do is I'll do one of two things when I'm making a piling. If I'm not looking for a particular word and I'm just kind of browsing for new words to make, I'll usually go to Category Proto-Indo-European Lemmas on Wiktionary. And I'm fine using Wiktionary for this because it's a conlang. It's not that serious. If I were doing Indo-European stuff, I usually don't use Wiktionary, but when it's just conlanging stuff, I use Wiktionary a lot. Because if it's inaccurate, it's no big deal because it's a conlang. it's not serious. It's just for fun. So yeah. So I could just like pick a random word, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm thinking about this. And one thing that I like to do, that Wiktionary has a feature for, is you can go to the English gloss for something, or the English word for something. Oops. And you can go to translations for it. So let's say I want to go to like tan. I don't think I'm going to use anything here, but just for instance, I'll put translations. You don't actually have to write it in the URL part. You could just go to the page and click on translations or scroll to translations. But this is just the shortcut. It'll take me to translations of different definitions of the word tan, right? And it'll give me translations that are available that people have added. Obviously, it kind of depends on the word how many there will be in which languages. But then what I do is I find Indo-European languages here. I look for old ones, like if they have like the Latin or the Sanskrit or the Greek of it, that's going to be a good hint. But if they have like a Romance language, I can usually get to Latin from there. Or like, you know, sometimes I go to like, ooh, where does this Irish one come from? And I'll kind of just check out where they come from and look for Proto-Indo-European roots backwards from modern languages. So if I'm going by the color, there's actually not a lot of translations here. I can go like, where does this Irish word come from? Oh, there is no etymology. So I could search my Celtic etymological dictionary, but I'm not probably going to use that word anyway. But yeah, that's how I would do it. So there's an Old English word I'm thinking of that kind of covers this color range. Well, it's a little bit like more desaturated in Old English. It's dux. I don't know if there's a page for that on Wiktionary. Oh, there is. Okay, dux. Yeah. They're translated as dark swarthy, but it's usually this sort of range of like orangey browns. You can see cognate, so it's from Proto-European. Dos is the root there, and yeah, I've seen it in other places, and it seems to come from deo, which is smoke or dust, which makes sense. It's like a smoky, dusty color is the idea. This might actually be good for my gray-black word. Black, gray, white, cognate Latin fuscus. And I go to the Proto-European root page just to look at different root extensions that come up and what they mean. So it's the meaning of the root seems to be smoke, mist, haze. And you can see different words that come from it with different root extensions. So like with this, taking the root in 0 grade where you actually take out the E and then the W becomes like the syllable vowel U. And then you have this li extension that shows up in Alto-Slavic, and in Proto-Celtic this would just be like dulis without the aspiration or the H. It would be a long U. In Proto-Celtic it would be like dulis. In Proto-Celtic they're just not putting it there. It becomes desire in Irish. That's interesting. And it seems to be the same extension in Indo-Iranian. So you've got Sanskrit duli, dust. It's in this North Iranian language. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I actually already have a word that comes from this root in dabrian. Let's see. And then the word, this is where we get our word dusk from, actually. This is the skull root extension. It's interesting. Okay. So I'm just kind of like browsing and looking for like what would be a good color extension. Ooh, yeah, I know this word for Proto-Celtic, but what root extension is it? Oh, Daibo's law is this should be long U, but then there's this thing called Daibo's law that shortens a long U before a coda consonant, which is the S here. So it would be like duhsna. So this is just the sna. I don't know, it's unsorted. This is the sno extension, which exists for other words. Should I edit the Wikipedia page or Wiktionary page? Maybe, because this could just go up into a snow root extension. Yeah, so this is an option potentially. Produce smoke. It's a verb here. I want one that definitely means colors, and fuscus in Latin here. I want to say it's yeah, these are Latin colors. I want to look at them because they do have like a orangish range here. But mine is like spanning kind of both of these colors here. These are the Latin ones. I actually don't know where rutilus comes from. What's the root of that? I don't hate the idea of using the root of flavus either. An unexplained derivation. Yeah, it is unexplained. Why would there be a T? It'll make sense, actually, to me. Especially if it means like the hair color. Yeah, that makes sense. With an L extension. Okay, interesting. I'll think about that one. Yeah, I was thinking about this one. Flaus in Latin comes from this root. This might just be fun. It just might produce a fun sounding word. Light or bright is the root here. But it's like a bright color. This is where we get the word blue from in Germanic, but it means yellow in Latin. I like it because we're talking about these, like Jan Kawas said, pastel-y, warm colors. I think that would be a fun root for it. I'm not going to gloss these yet because I'm not going to gloss these with English words. It's just color one, I'll call it for now. And I'm going to convert this into monovocal PIE real quick. That'll just be blah. The S there is actually a nominative ending, which I don't use nominative ending S, so it's not going to affect how this word comes out. Okay, so the first thing that happens is the H1 goeth away. So that's my word now. The next thing that happens is that both BH and W are going to become a V. So this is an interesting word. Okay. And then we have, and it's a sonorant, so there's not going to be gemination, but we are going to turn that L into a U, and then we're going to have a stress shift. And then we have nothing else is going to happen to this, so it's going to be vurba. Vurba for this color. How do we like vurba for these colors? That's kind of nice. Vurba. All right. I like it. Okay. Thank you for liking it. Thanks, Kawa. All right. It feels warm. Yeah, it does feel warm. All right. So the next one, I kind of want to skip ahead to this one because I'm seeing, I think I do want to take it from the word for smoke. Maybe I do just take it with the same extension it has in Germanic. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Okay. Why not? After all, why not? I'll put these in the lexicon when we're done. Color 2, color 3, color 4. Yes, I'm using the American spelling of color. Apologies. Not me being today years old realizing dusk and fuscus are related. Sob. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, where was the stress? I'm going to say the stress is on the O there. That makes the most sense to me because it's an adjective extension. Not that much can be. You should realize this. All right. First thing that happens here is that H2 is just an H now. Second thing that happens is that the K is going to turn to a glottal stop. Okay. And then the aspirated D is just going to be a the. And then that glottal stop. Okay, what happens first? Because we have an H on one side of this S, and we have a glottal stop on the other. I think the glottal stop, I wrote this in order. So the glottal stop stuff happens first. So first, the glottal stop becomes gemination of the S. And then H, would H then geminate this one? I think that's what I've done in the past. So I have like a triple long S. Dussa. Hearts 80, if you're still here, this word has 3 S's in its name too. It's not going to stay that way, but it does for now. All right, dussa. Stress shifts to the U. One of these S's goes away because of the S yeeting between consonants rule. It doesn't even need to be the gemination rule, so then it's dussa. I actually like how dussa sounds for like my gray, black-white word. Dussa. All right. let's see. I need my red and my grue. And then we're done with colors. I don't want to be stuck in Latin. What word for blue was it that I wanted to use? I had it in mind. Or was I thinking of just using the word for green that comes, that's in... Wait, I think I can get to it from here, can't I? Yeah, I think it's from the same root. Yeah. Green or yellow. So where yellow comes from. This is, yeah, Glastos. Tokipona speakers in the chat, this is where lasso comes from. I was going to use this. I'm going to use the lasso cognate for the blue-green word. But this is, yeah, we don't care about Satem. Sorry, guys. Double T A. We don't care about this S because that's just nominative ending. Okay. First step is H3 turns into H. The second thing is that H yeets after a consonant. So we can just say bye to it anyway. The third thing is that both of these T's are going to become K's. The next thing is that the GH is actually going to go away. And then this is going to be a syllabic L that becomes a UR at the beginning of the word. And then the double K, oh wait, stress shift, double K eats. And I'm pretty sure I already have the word urca as the problem. Don't I? I do. It means document. The green document. Urca. Maybe I don't take it from this extension. Oops, I'm done with you. It tends to mean yellow is the thing. It means green or yellow in Greek. Is it an R? It just tends to mean yellow more often than it means green is the thing. Where does gurma come from? I forget where the Proto-Celtic root of this word comes from, and I hope Wiktionary can tell me. Yeah, it's gurmos. I thought it was feminine for some reason. Gurma. But it's gurmos. It's an adjective. Unknown. That's why. I'm like, what's the PIE root of gurmos? There isn't a known one. Presumably borrow from a non-Indo-European substrate source since there are no cognates outside Celtic. Yeah, okay. Is that what? Yeah, that is what he says. Okay. Sad. Okay. You can see the sad situation of Proto-Celtic color terms. We only know these ones. Okay. Okay, I have an idea. I might take it from, especially because of where I thought this language would be spoken. I think I could do something else. I could take it from one of these wander words for purple that shows up. Weon, yeah. Yeah, at one point it was believed that this word came from some kind of Iranian term, but that's not on here anymore. Did they get rid of that? When was this most recently updated? I can't remember. I don't have the energy to look it up. Yeah, okay, there it is. Yeah, Middle Persian. One afshah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, where's modern Persian here? Is modern Persian even here? Why can't I find it? I'm like probably scrolling past it every second, aren't I? Oh, literally right there. Yeah, I keep scrolling past it. Yeah, Banafshi. Yeah. Yeah, the idea is that this is like a wander word that like went around and got loaned around, and that's where the Greek word ion came from, like where we get the word ion from, like and then Latin viola as well. We might be dealing with a Near Eastern flower name. Weon. I think I've gotten words for purple from this root before in other conlangs. Blue. Maybe related to one in Old English. Maybe. That wouldn't be completely impossible. But I always thought it was related to, yeah, like Wanona, to lesson, to Wayne, right? Interesting. But maybe it is related. These are like opposing theories to each other. I want to look at their sources. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, Wiktionary is always fun when they cite things. I like when they cite things. Yeah, I could just like take it from Weon, or I could borrow it from Middle Persian. That might be fun, figuring out how that borrowing would come in. How would that borrowing come in, and at what point would it come in is the other question. Like when in the timeline of these sound changes would it come in? I'm thinking it would come in like maybe hereish, like after these sound changes come in. Because I take from like Proto-Indo-Iranian, which would come long before Middle Persian. Why am I way over here all of a sudden? Because I clicked on the beginning is why. All right. Like I've taken from Proto-Indo-Iranian and taken that from like hereish, like post the like Centum Katum, Kentum Satum split, which is like here. So this probably takes centuries. This part. So I'm thinking it happens like here, right before like the consonant gemination, because I'm going to do consonant gemination here. And this F is probably going to be loaned in as a V, because the closest sound to that is the V sound. And this sh is probably just going to be an S. And this G, at this point, the closest sound is a K. Either that or the G just doesn't get loaned in at all. I'm going to loan it as a K, though, so it's going to be like Vanaf, Sak. Oh. Like, that's what it is at this point in time. It doesn't apply to this, but this is how it's getting loaned in, which would make it, the gemination would happen, so it would be like Sak. Maybe I don't keep the G. Maybe the G is just not, maybe it's perceived as like this sound and just yeets. Actually kind of like how it sounds better without it. Like Vanessa. I like that. And I don't need to do anything with the, yeah, the stress goes on the as here. Vanessa. Vanessa. That's nice. Sounds like Vanessa. Like the name. But I like it. For like green, blue. Vanessa. Alright, I need one more color and then we're good. I think I have words for light and dark already to distinguish white and black and stuff. Last one is the reddish purplish color. That's gonna be, I mean, there's a really common, almost always used in almost every branch word for red that shows up. Maybe I should take it from that. It's, wait, don't I already have a word that means to make red? I think I already have the word for red. I think it's in my conjugation sheet. Yeah, I do. Rudaki. is to redden something. I guess to color to in something technically. But yeah, I do have it. As a verb, do I have the noun? Red. Or the adjective. No, but it does show that this root is in there. Maybe I do just take it. The question is, with what extension? The most common extensions of this one are like with an R, or just like by itself, like as a root or as a thematic, with a thematic vowel. Do like ralda. I already know this would just be ralda. Like, if I did it, it would be ralda. And if I did it with the R extension, it'd be like rudra. I kind of like ralda better. But ralda is like almost exactly just the like Germanic root for red. It's not super special, but it doesn't need to be. It can just be normal. It can just be basic, this one, because all my other color ones are pretty unique. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah. Vurba, rauda, vanassa, and lussa. Those are my color words. Okay. We went a whole 42 minutes past where I expected to end. So thank you to everyone who stuck around and watched me wade through color terms. Yeah, I'm very happy with vanassa as well. Thank you, Middle Persian. All right, I'll put these in the lexicon sheet after the stream. Yeah, Middle Persian slate, yeah. The other thing I wanted to do is just kind of show some of the greetings I had here. I only have greetings so far. I'm going to have other phrases here. I also have a gap here because I meant to do something before the stream and I didn't have time. But the ones I have so far are like asking how someone's doing and saying goodbye in different circumstances and hello in certain times of the day. That's all I really have. But I guess I will explain what these are. So kai dadawa just literally means like, is it availing to you? Like, is it being of use to you? Is it going okay, basically? And the answer, why didn't I put a question mark there, is mai dadawa, which is, yeah, it's availing to me. These ones are some of my favorite because they're shortenings of like very long sentences with the sensory terms. So if we go back to examples, like hankubi was in the ear and vaikuri was in the eye. And then we have the auxiliary for the future here, kana, conjugated. So this is like short. This one's short for umbi hankubi na urnaoki kana. This is all understood, is the thing. It's like we will see, or we will hear each other again, is what this says. We will be in each other's ears again. And it says we will be in each other's eyes again. And the idea is like, this is goodbye if you're just talking to someone, but you're not like, you know, you're just hearing them. You're like in a phone call or something. And this is more like you're with the person or you see the person. And you're saying, see you later. So it's kind of like see you later and hear you later is the idea with these. And then we just have like good morning, good day, good evening, good night. But instead of these being strictly for those time periods, it's like you could say good morning at 2 p.m. And it's still correct. Because good morning has kind of shifted to just be like the way to say hello in the daytime, and good evening, same thing for the nighttime. And saying a simple good day or good night is more like goodbye. Like, I'm leaving, have a good day. I'm leaving, have a good night. So that's sort of how these work. So there's like, it's not literal good morning or literal good evening. It's more like, hello, it is daytime. Hello, it is nighttime. And then welcome is using the same verb as how are you. This is the verb lalauki, which is to avail, to like be of use or go well, basically. And this is the ma, this is the sort of subjunctive auxiliary. So it's like, may it go well to you is in parentheses. You can add that if you want. this is singular you and this is plural you, and it's in the dative again. So it's like to you, to y'all, may it go well. Like, come, may it avail you, this place that I'm welcoming you to. So those are the only phrases I've kind of built so far. I plan on making more. I plan on actually making this fleshed out, and like the idea is you could actually like have conversations in it in theory. I don't know if anyone would want to, but I do want to make more, you know, apparatus for that kind of thing. I also have a bunch of deities names put into this language in the lexicon, just because I ended up using them for days of the week, and also just for fun. There's some that I didn't use for the days of the week, but yeah, I might add more of those as well. So that is dabradam, the state of dabradam right now. I just thought it would be fun to share this conlang. I'll do other conlang showcases, preferably ones that are more complete. I do have some more complete conlangs in the future, but two housekeeping items before I go. Next week is not going to be a conlang showcase. It might be a few weeks before I do another one. Next week is going to be I'm going to be reading some Egyptian hieroglyphs again. It's been almost a year since the last time I did that in Yesterlore. I'm going to read another inscription, and we're going to look at hieroglyphs again because that was fun and I want to do it again. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I promised last time, because I did a journal with me last time, I promised to show how the designs for the days of the week came out. So let me actually turn my top light on that I use for journal with me. All right, I hope that doesn't completely change how my camera looks. Not too bad. Okay. The important thing is that you can see my journal, which I will make sure that is the case. There. So I'm going to skip Monday, Tuesday, because that's when I went on my trip. But I said I would show this. This is how the design came out on the end, on the edge. I said I wanted to show how it came out. You can't see it very well, but in my next journal with me, I'll probably flip back to it as well, so you can see that. I've already made next week's design, which is a little bit more elaborate this time, but again, next journal with me, I will show these pages before making the new journal page. So those are the housekeeping items I wanted to cover. Journal with me. I promised last time that I would show it, and I almost forgot. And then next week is hieroglyphs. I have not decided what we're reading yet, like what inscription. I have a few different options I'm playing with. I need to pick one that's not going to take like forever to do in a stream. And like I did last time, I want to do like, I want to show the hieroglyphs, but I also want to like sort of give the reconstructed pronunciation of what it would be, not just the Egyptological one, but like the, like how would this probably have sounded in whatever kingdom the, whatever period the inscription is from. I'm going to try my best to do that. So yeah, look forward to that next week. Same time, probably will be an actual planned to be 2-hour stream. We're going to be looking at some hieroglyphs again, ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and then probably the week after that will be another journal with me. I'm going to do some different things in my journal, so I'm going to show how I do that. I've just been doing my daily, weekly hybrids in the last few journal with me's, but I'm going to show you a different kind of spread that I'm going to do in 2 weeks. So that's what's coming ahead, and I will end there because it is 50 minutes past when I planned to end. I have to go make some bread, so I'm going to do that. Thank you, everyone who came. I really appreciated all the interaction, all the comments, questions, everything. This will be on YouTube probably in a couple hours because of how long the stream is going to take to render on YouTube, but the recording will be on YouTube soon. So you can leave comments there if you have more questions or comments you want to make, requests for things you want to see from me, and I will try to remember this time to make a community post on YouTube saying what we're going to be reading on Saturday, what hieroglyph thing we'll be reading, and I'll try to link to that as well. Oh, I'm going to put the monovocal PIE link in the description of the YouTube as well, the monovocal set of paper things, because I said I would do that too. All right, thank you for the stream. Thank you for being the audience. Kawa. All right. Have a great rest of your whatever time zone you're in, and I will see you next time. Thank you and farewell.